right, hey everybody, this is Phil Terreysla with Anglers Covey, out here with Jared on the South Platte River up above Spinney Reservoir, talking about this month's bug of the month. It's August here, so it's terrestrial time, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about here today. Not only just terrestrials, but also some dry dropper type fishing. As we're here on the upper South Platte today, water conditions don't look perfect for hopper fishing. We're a little bit of a stain here from all of these afternoon rainstorms that we've been getting into. But I think we'll probably be able to find one or two willing to come up. And if not, we'll throw a dropper on there below our hopper and see if we can't come up with them that way as well. So starting off here though, I want to kind of break down what we're going to be fishing, or you know, it's hard to go wrong really on any hopper pattern this time of year. Sometimes, you know, just varying size or color can be the big difference. A lot of times it's not a fish wants to come up and only eat an Amy's ant or only eat a chubby. What I'm going to kind of start with today though is a smaller version. We've got some smaller fish up here on the upper South Platte. You know, there's certainly some bigger ones moving around, I'm sure as well, but you know, typically kind of giving them a little bit of a smaller offering. This is just your royal chubby, a little chubby Chernobyl. Like fishing the royal color, tan, olive, all great colors for hoppers and fish Amy's ants, red, olives as well. But I also feel like it's important when we're talking about patterns to not just get so zoned in to those hoppers. You know, there's a lot of other terrestrials moving around on the river's edge, from beetles and flying ants to other little ants. You know, sometimes you may roll up on a good fish you see sipping on an edge, and they don't want a hopper. Maybe they just want something a little smaller, maybe a little beetle or a flying ant pattern, just something to vary it up. So it's really, as far as patterns go, not overly important as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, if you're throwing something up against the bank, most of the time it's going to be an opportunistic eat where those fish want to come up and eat something a little bit bigger that might get blown in the water. As far as our dry dropper rig though, so I showed you our little chubby here. Way down here, it's a little bit tougher to see. This is can't really see it. I don't know if you can or not there, guys, but this is my Lightsaber PMD jig. Just a great little heavy dropper, help get us down for our subsurface offerings as well. So just kind of giving two opportunities for those fish to eat, whether it be on the surface or underneath. So when I'm doing my dry dropper setup, I will tend to start my day with just a little bit of a shorter drop. I think we're just about maybe a little over 2 feet here between my hopper and my dropper. You know, a lot of times having that bug kind of elevated in the current, especially middle of the day when those fish are looking for emergers and stuff like that, is a great way to kind of get those fish to eat your dropper. There's times too where you may want to lengthen it up a little bit, not only just to fish a deeper water depth, but also very similar to when you fish with a strike indicator or nymphs. You know, you're not fishing nymphs under an indicator. If it's 2 feet of water, you typically aren't fishing 2 feet below the indicator. It's usually 1.5 to 2 times the water depth. So with these dry droppers, you want to imagine that hopper is 1.5, maybe 2 times the depth of where you want that bug sitting. And that's just going to help eliminate drag underneath the water, okay? That's why we do it with our nymph rigs, where you have that little extra kind of distance between your indicator and your flies, so that your flies aren't moving at the speed of the top of the water, but rather at the water level that they are floating in. Same thing kind of applies when you're fishing hopper droppers. So, you know, sometimes you'll fish a hopper dropper where that dropper is, you know, 1.5 feet, 2 feet below, or maybe even 4 feet below your dry fly, just in order to get those nice natural drifts for those dropper bugs. So one other thing about rigging when we're fishing terrestrials, especially, you know, you're going to be casting a lot to the banks. I'll always like to use actually a little bit heavier tippet, whereas on our tailwaters, you'll be fishing, you know, those 4, 5, 6X real light line, especially when dries are coming off or those hatches are coming off and you're fishing dries. You can kind of get away with some heavier stuff when you're fishing hoppers. You know, 2, 3X is a good way to go, especially since you're going to be casting at bushes and banks and all that good stuff. It can really help you not lose a lot of flies, but also kind of pull those flies right off the grass or off of a little tree limb or something and putting it right up against the bank there. So here I'm just kind of picking apart these little soft edges. The water is up fairly high here, up above Spinney. Obviously not super great clarity. So we're gonna kind of just hit those real shallow edges. Anything that's got some softer water where some of these fish might be hanging. When I fish these hoppers too, I really don't beat up a bank super hard. It's not like you're working a big fish with nymphs or you see a fish coming up and rising. It's not so much where you're working that riser so much as it's looking for that aggressive type of eat, kind of putting those flies right up on the bank. So I'll do 3-4 casts in a spot maybe before I finally start sliding up a little bit. Those edges as well, even in this nice dirty water, will kind of be the clearest as well. So kind of putting it right up against the bank is a great way to find, oh, in the grass there, come on off, there we go. Oh, come on. Working that nice foam line coming off the bank here. The closer you can get these hoppers onto the bank, whether you're in the grass or not, is great. Especially up here on this upper section of the South Platte, there's so many big undercut banks. Those fish can kind of just hang out underneath and pop on up whenever they feel like they see a good food source up there. Kind of switched over to a bit of a bigger hopper here too. I'm kind of starting to slide up as well onto this bend, so I might work the inside of this bend kind of from a downstream position as well. See if anyone's hanging on that inside ledge. Oh, there we go. Come on, fish. Nom, 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 nom. So as you can see, we're covering water pretty quick. That's one thing I really like to do when I'm firing hoppers, especially when fish aren't looking up specifically for a hatch or anything. Just kind of putting that up against the bank as much as you can. Oh, there we go. Here, fishy, fishy. Here, fishy, fishy. Oh, right in that little bucket. Nobody home? Nobody wants to come up right there? What I think I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna add a little Landon Mare mini leech jig as my dropper. See if we can't find someone wanting to eat at least a dropper here in some of this off-color water. There's a little seam up here. See if anybody's hanging on that little seam right there. No pocket's ever too small for fish to be in, so we're hitting everything. Hey, look at that. All right, hopper eater. That's what we're talking about. Also, guys, making sure we're keeping these fish nice and wet. It's late summer. Water temps on some of our rivers are getting pretty warm. So not a tank by any means, but my goodness, what a beautiful wild brownie. Gonna get him to settle down here. Hopper's bigger than his whole face. Look at that, love it. Oh, check this out, something's been getting after him here too. Let me give him a drink real quick. Check out someone nipped at his tail down there. All right. All right, Bubba. Hooray! All right, back at it here. See if anyone else is on that little slow edge on that far side. Went ahead and took the dropper off. Oh, there's a flash. Oh, I saw him. Oh, here we go. Come up and get it this time. Okay, here we go. Oh, right on that. Oh, get out of the willows, Phil. There we go. Oh, he doesn't want it. Didn't want to come back up for it. Oh, God, come on. Oh, man. There's 3X. Come on, work hard. Oh, it's right there on the bank. There, fishy, fishy. So maybe go back to that dark chubby. A little contrast. Come on, fishies. Guess they don't want it. Well, on to the next hole. Help to try to shorten your cast up a little bit. Yeah, take a breather. Missed one. So we just kind of finished up here up on the upper South Platte, throwing hoppers. Conditions certainly weren't what we were probably looking for as far as water clarity and whatnot. It's still a little chocolatey out there, but we still had a fair number of fish come up and at least try to eat a big old chubby. So it was a fun day nonetheless, but nothing better than watching those little guys come up and try to annihilate something that doesn't fit in their mouth. But as far as patterns go, kind of digging into a little bit of that stuff. Today fished mostly just, royal chubbies, some tan chubbies. Amy's Ants are another awesome one as well. The big thing with both chubbies and Amy's is they'll double over not only as a hopper, but also as a stonefly. You know, those wings can kind of make a difference as far as those go. Another one of my favorite patterns, to be honest, is just the old school original Chernobyl ant. No wings is just basically a flip-flop floating around out there, but no wings can sometimes be the difference between those fish wanting to come up and eat it or not, especially on pressured waters. You know, you can also go with something a little bit more traditional and some awesome patterns too. You know, Dave's hopper, the old school Dave's hopper, it's been around a long time. Just a classic hopper pattern, looks incredibly realistic when it's floating in the water. So throwing Dave's hopper is another great one. You know, as far as beetles and ants go, when you want to size those hoppers down a little bit, I just like to throw the high vis beetle, you know, maybe size 16 to even to a 20. So it's going to be a lot smaller, but a little bit less intrusive on those fish as well, especially if you find a picky one that doesn't want to quite come up for a hopper, but you might see them coming up here or there for something else. So, you know, any type of flying ant pattern as well is another great way, especially late afternoon, evenings. If you're ever on the river, kind of in the evening hours, especially after some kind of rainstorm, you look around, there's flying ants everywhere. You'll swear they're a certain type of other insect, you know, maybe a pale evening dun, something like that, or something else flying around, but those little flying ants coming off in the evening hours, especially after an afternoon rainstorm, can be a great way to go. And that's about it here from the banks of the South Platte River. So we appreciate you all tuning in to the August terrestrial bug of the month. Tune in next month to see what we have on store for you. Thank you so much, and best fishing, everybody.
I'm trying to make
There's two of them. They're getting it on. See that?